everyone, welcome back to the Effectory webinar series. My name is Arjen Swank and I'm a consultant at Effectory, but also the host of this webinar series of Effectory. At Effectory, we're the European market leader for effective employee listening and feedback. And we're very much involved in the field of HR and the business community. We see an increasing level of involvement of HR at the C-level business table. Next to evaluating company performance against financial numbers, customer NPS, we now see that employee experience is more than ever important, and HR has a relevant stake at making this important for every team of directors. For this webinar, we invite inspiring guests to share with us the latest trends in HR and the business community around us. You might have seen our previous episodes. We talked about purpose, about perspective, diversity and inclusion, performance management and rewards, employee experience, and of course, engagement. Because how do you really keep your employees engaged in stressful times like these? These times are unprecedented. And today we will be talking about technological unemployment. The world around us, and especially the working world, is changing in rapid pace. Technological development is faster than ever. We have AI, machine learning, robotics, gamification, what have you. Meanwhile, Harvard Business Review predicts that in 10 years from now, 40% of jobs might be obsolete, whereas 50% of companies in 20 years from now might no longer exist. Just realize, for the people working in your organization, in 5 years from now, 75% of them will be millennials. And this generation of workers is different. They have different ideas about purpose, about autonomy, inclusion, and they use technology as an enabler for success. And you as an employer have to cater to all these different needs, but also the different generations in your work floor. Our guest for today is Tjahny Bercx. He is the CHRO of Leaseplan, an international, fast-growing mobility company. Coming from a background in the military, he is now a highly experienced leader in the corporate environment. Tjahny will be sharing his view about a technological unemployment. How does technical development influence the way we run our businesses? And how can we use the technological developments actually as an accelerator for success, for the business, but also for you as an individual employee? Just a reminder before Tjahny will introduce himself, you can leave all your comments, your ideas, but also specifically your questions in the comment box below. And we will try to answer all of them in the next 45 minutes. Tjahny, very much welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to your story, but before we dive into that, maybe you can just shortly introduce yourself. You have many different hats within one company, I see. So maybe just a quick glimpse of your daily work life. What does that look like?
Yeah, before I will answer your question, I first would like to thank, of course, Effectory for the fact that you have invited me. I feel really privileged to do this. Also in this set, because I've never done this before like this, so I'm really, I feel really excited about this, and I have to do this. But para todos mis amigos en México y Brasil, muito obrigado y muchas gracias por su support, because I understood that many of you have posted and reposted this momentum of the webinar. And mucho obrigado y muchas gracias para todos. Yes, my name is Tjahny Bercx. I'm 57 years, and I have a family with my wife and 3 children, and 2 of them are already at the university, and I have a little bonus child of 6. My daily life is just like many others. It is not easy today, as we are in a Corona time frame. That's not easy. So the sense of community is a very important point for myself, but also for my family as well, or for my colleagues all around the world. Mm-hmm. And my daily work is actually as a member of the executive committee of Leaseplan. I'm involved, of course, in the governance of the group, involved, of course, in the strategy of Leaseplan Group, but also with my head as Chief People and Performance Officer, I'm also responsible, of course, for the development of the people in the group, mm-hmm. and my other role as a let's say cluster country executive. I have also a business responsibility with a P&L responsibility for my countries. which are Brazil, Mexico, the US, Switzerland, and Austria.
Wow. Many different perspectives in one day, I can imagine. Many different languages as well.
Yeah.
I like the way you said this is my first webinar. You're never too old to learn. I think that's one
definitely.
of your
And especially
mottos.
in this digital age, I think it is really important to be really on top of this. Absolutely.
For sure.
And
Well,
experience it.
You're very welcome. Just before we start your presentation, how have the past months been for you?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, it is not easy. Of course, since the 13th of March, our business, Leaseplan, has closed the door everywhere in the world. And
this is 8.5? 9,000?
Around 8,200 employees.
Wow.
And which is extraordinary. I mean, especially our digital IT team, they did a tremendous job to get everybody safe and well, that they can safe and well work from their Microsoft Teams or other ways of communication. Mm-hmm. And immediately we were there to build a sort of website, because we knew that it's very important to have a sort of sense of community with all kinds of activities, what we do for the people, like reading books, all kinds of gamifications. I even learned people how to do a merengue.
Okay.
So, all these kinds of stuff we are doing, next to all the serious stuff that we are doing, because the sense of community is really important.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the business is doing well. Of course, everybody has difficulties in this very difficult time. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Thank you. I'm not going to hold you any longer. Please take us away. And we'll have the option to ask questions in the meantime. So I might come back to you halfway as well. Yeah. And we'll leave it to the audience to also give us some questions now or at the end.
Okay, fantastic. Well, why this subject? Well, to be honest, I have lately to get some more interest in the questions that I have around digitalization. I started to write, and I even started to write some columns for a magazine. And because what I try to do with my writing and my reading is actually to myself internalize exactly what is going on in the new world. And one of the subjects that I was talking about is the technological unemployment. And what's next? I could also have called it technological unemployment, don't panic. But another one could have been technological unemployment, stay relevant. All these topics I will pass through my presentation, which takes around 25 minutes. So bear with me. We have done this one already. So why I started to internalize a little bit what's going on, because if you read all the articles, if you read the newspapers, if you read studies, it's all what I see is fear, scaremongering, if that is the correct English what I'm doing. Will automation take away all your jobs? Robots could take over 20 million of jobs by 2030. And I was, as an executive and also responsible for the human experience, I was really wondering for why we have these messages, and is it really true? Because what I want our people in the digitalization that we are doing at my business is that we want people to embrace technology. That's what we want. Because we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which is all about connectivity. And of course, you want the people to understand what is going on, that they prepare for what is going on. So that's why I started to read, and I was also wondering myself, what should we do? Because I see people that are really panicking, and I see people that they are preparing themselves for the future. Which side do you choose? And as I'm an optimist myself, I'm definitely not on the pessimist side. On the pessimist, they all think, that's also what you see in all those newspapers and articles, employment will decline, people will become obsolete, and more of those stories. While I think, and if I look also back to in the history, which my story will tell you a little bit more about, then you see, I think that there will be more prosperity, and I think that more jobs will arise. Yes, jobs will go away, but new jobs will arise. So which side do you choose? And I think it's very important to really understand what is going on before you step into the side of the pessimism. Because if you look in the world where we are today, everybody is talking about the new normal. Working from home, the new normal. Having a Tesla, the new normal. I mean, seriously. So I was just wondering, what is the new normal? And I figured out myself by reading a lot of articles that the new normal is a prior announcement or warning to adapt or move to the new created situation. And actually, if you really think about it, well, that's actually almost every day. But if you look at the bigger picture of where we are ending now, or where we are in the new technological revolution, I think, of course, we need to prepare ourselves for what is coming. And by the way, I tried to find out where the word new normal comes from. And I digged of course, on the internet. And I found out that a certain gentleman called Dr. Mohammed A.L. Arjen, he is the chief economic advisor of Allianz and a former CEO of PIMCO. And he held a reading about navigating the new normal in industrial countries at the Per Jacobson Foundation and the 10th of October 2010. And that foundation was set up in 1964 in memory, of course, for Per Jacobson. He was the third managing director of the IMF. So the new normal is actually, as a terminology was introduced since of 2010. Just that you are aware of that. Anyway, so what I've done, I read different articles, and yes, I also bought some books, some studies around this subject. I can tell you already that I didn't read the book in full. I only took some paragraphs out of it to get a little bit of understanding of that. And then I also read two other related books to this to really understand what's going on with AI. And especially because of the fact that there's so much hype around it, I can understand it. We are pumping trillions of dollars into, of course, new technology. And of course, every, let's say, new product or new ways of working will lead immediately to an enormous hype in the newspapers or elsewhere. And the other one, the machine question, was for me very interesting, because what you don't hear so often is all about ethics. What happens with deep learning and what happens in the black box? You will try to understand that. So the ethics book is also very interesting to read. So technological unemployment. Apparently, a lot of studies have taken place around this subject, because otherwise you don't end up in the Oxford Dictionary of Economists. So, and I'm happy, it is a very easy translation, because it means nothing more than unemployment due to technological progress. That's all. The question now is, has there ever been unemployment due to technological progress? And I wanted to understand it. So what I did is I split a little bit deeper, and if you look at it, the first industrial revolution, that is around the 1700s, it's all about steam. So what happened in that time, you had there the mechanization of water and steam leading to the steam machine, which brought enormous progress and prosperity in that time. If you go to the 1800s, we had the second industrial revolution. And the second industrial revolution was all about electricity, oil, and communication, and especially then, of course, telegraphy. In the third industrial revolution, that was around the 1900s, was all about computing. And that was having the ability to have an enormous amount of information, access to information. And now we are in the fourth industrial revolution. And I try to use here the metaphor of a horse. If you look at the 1700s, horses were used as really workhorses. They had to plow the land, they had to walk circles to pump the water out of the ground. They were used for the haying. And while the technology progress was there, then the horses were used for private carriages or as a postal couch. And then the combustion engine came, and then the horses became obsolete. I mean, seriously, what happened then? Many horses were just killed. So if this is the foreland of our life, then I'm really getting scared. Of course, nowadays the horses are used for grassland management and for recreation. So ultimately, it ended up very good. But on this one by itself, there's a lot of discussions at the moment on if everything digitized, more and more people will lose their job. That is a sort of expectation. Shall we not go to a sort of basis income for everybody? Well, this is definitely a discussion that we can use in another webinar. But for now, let's go back to the historical perspective of technological unemployment. So, technology has always played a very important role if it comes to the industrial revolutions and also in the labor market. And if you look at it, we went from the agriculture towards urbanization, towards the industry, towards the next phase, which is then the service industry. And now there's a big question mark for what will this, apparently the fourth industrial revolution where we are today, what does it mean for the organization and for the jobs of tomorrow? And that is really a question mark at the moment, because a lot of people we don't know. Normally, if you look at technological progress was mainly based on, let's say, physical capabilities. Machines were better and stronger than men and women. But nowadays, there are some signs that technology can also take over our social and cognitive skills. So if that's going to happen, then I think we should be more concerned. And why I think that the fourth industrial revolution is different is because you're not talking about a single revolution. It is many technologies at the same time. And it was already mentioned in the beginning. You talk about cloud computing. You talk about Internet of Things. You talk about artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, virtual reality, robotica, biotechnology. We're taking now energy from the water, the wind and the sun, 3D printing. And if we do cross-pollination, then something very special happens. Complete new business processes and business opportunities are arising. And that will have a huge impact on the existing businesses today. You just have to look at the top 25 companies over the last 25 years. They're all gone. They are wiped, they have vanished off the earth. And the big technology companies have taken it over. And also our company, and I think every respected company in the world, should have technology and a digital progress and opportunity high on the agenda. Because if you want to take yourself seriously and you want to be part and exist in the coming 10 to 20 to 30 or 40 or 50 years, you better start doing something about on cross-pollination and the developments on the technology.
Tjahny, we're actually getting a question. I think this is very relevant for this topic. So the question we're getting is the difference for this revolution versus the earlier ones. Isn't the first time that we can actually communicate across the world for all these different topics? Because in previous times, in 1700s, they only had the opportunity to go to the next village or to the next city, but if they existed. 1800s, 1900s, communications were not so fast and definitely not as easy as we can do it now. We can send an email to your colleagues in Mexico and they will respond within the hour. So isn't that a big difference as well?
Yeah, well, maybe yes. Let me first, I'm not a professor. I'm trying also to do my best to have an understanding of this. I think this is the beauty of the time frame where we are in today, because most of us, we don't know. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is that these technologies are so disruptive that if you look at our business model, for instance, every part of the value chains can be disrupted. And I think this is completely new. That has never been before. That's why the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazon have such a step ahead of all of us, because they tapped into what they call the new gold, which is data, and disrupt completely the way how they now go to the market. Technology makes that possible. That was in the past, it was not like that. So in that sense, in the question, I think that there is some part of truth. We can communicate better to each other. But I think this time, if you look at the technologies of today, it has such an impact on the business models of tomorrow, actually today already, that it is so disruptive that all the business models that have been built up over the last hundreds of years, they will all vanish off the earth.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. So where is the real danger? And I think it looks like that there's still a lot of ignorance outside there. People think, and a lot of people think, that it's only happening, it's not happening at the workplace. They see the changes at home because almost everybody has an iPhone. Almost everybody does payments on a distance. Almost everybody is using internet to buy, well, at least if you look at the trillions that has been used for internet buying, I mean, that is really serious stuff. But apparently we are not able to reflect it back into our jobs. And also, I think we are unconsciously incompetent, and we don't have enough know-how, leading to the fact that the vision on digitalization is very narrow. And what you see is then that a lot of businesses, they are building around their, let's say, front end. That's easy. It's a website. You do something with it. Even my son of 19 years old, he's building his own websites already. But when you go to the core of your IT, then it's getting very difficult. And that's exactly where all these technologies can help. And then you are almost forced to also disrupt your own business processes. Look, a startup don't have this problem. They can be immediately disruptive because of the technology that they are using. But all those existing businesses, it doesn't matter which business you are, but you end up in a sort of position where I think it was Scott Fitzgerald, he said once that the first test of intelligence, the first rate of intelligence, is that you can hold two opposite opinions or ideas in your head, while in the meantime you still keep on functioning. And I think that is the biggest difficulties that most of the companies have at the moment, is that you have an operation today, you have to serve your customers, you have your legacy system, and you have your employees, but in the meantime you need to really think about and already act upon, let's say, all the technology opportunities that are out there to disrupt yourself and enter different ecosystems to stay alive. And it's not an easy task. So what is holding us back? And I have to look a little at my notes here. It is a recent study, and it's called in the Edelman Trust Barometer, found that 61% of the respondents believe that technology is changing the world too quickly. And if you then bring that further to your business, next to, let's say, the lack of clarity, where speculation about the impact on the future function and functioning, combined with the lack of know-how, what the current technology progress means, that ultimately will lead to a lack of action, because then we just let it happen. And I think here is the biggest danger for unemployment due to technological progress. And this is a call for action. So let's pull our heads out of the sand and let's start doing something. So, excuse me. So what can we use about it? So we use the term, in our business at least, and I hope this is also inspiring for you, we use the term employee agility. Employee agility is all about how to stay relevant. How to stay relevant for yourself, how to stay relevant for your family, how to stay relevant for your business, and how to stay relevant for your future businesses. And this is all an ask because, in my belief, new jobs will arise. And I mentioned in a moment, I will mention a few. New jobs will continue to exist. And what we need now at this stage is an ask for technology proficiency, and this is the competence in handling and use of technology, and a big ask for information literacy. So the competence to analyze, to evaluate, organize and convert data into useful information. And why is that so important? At this stage, there are in our businesses, and this is very unique, almost 4 generations working. You have the generation X, you have the pragmatic generation, you have the generation Einstein and generation Z. And especially on the first 2, maybe 3 generations, those are the ones on which shoulders we are standing to rebuild our business to be future-proof. And for them, it is also, if you look at all those technologies, not so easy to adapt to those, let's say, to the new world. And I think that it's really important that we pay attention to that, because too many times I'm hearing my colleagues saying, yeah, we need new skills, we need new people, we have to attract a lot of people. And I think that is disrespectful for the people that we have, that we are standing on the shoulders at this time. So think about what you are messaging, and think about what you can do with your existing employees. I will come back to that later on. So this is a page that I use actually in a total people and performance strategy document. But I took out this page because this page says already a lot. Yeah, in the existing world, we are with those fixed jobs. But towards the future, many jobs will go. Definitely. If you do now your customer journeys and you look to, let's say, what every individual is doing in their job, and you really specify on which elements can be digitized, you will see that a lot will be digitized and your role will be smaller and smaller. This is the moment that people can lose their jobs. But on the other hand, I also do believe that a lot of new jobs will arise. I wrote a few down. The data analyst and scientist, the AI and machine learning specialist, the software and application developers and analysts, the big data specialist, the digital transformation specialist, which there's a big cry out there at the moment. And for me, the ones that I like the most is the digital currency advisor. And another one that I like a lot is the drone traffic optimizer. Just imagine yourself that we have a flight tower that is managing all the drones around us. If you think that this is crazy, I don't believe so. I think it's even closer than we all think. Next to the rise of new jobs where we have to tap in, and which I think will be very scarce because of the fact that the schools are not ready. And nowadays more and more schools and universities are tapping into computer science and that sort of things. So there will be a war, or there is already a war on talent, on data scientists, digital transformation specialists, etc. And this is again a cry for you need to reskill and upskill your own employees. But I also think that the hierarchy in organization will change, and it will change towards a network of skills, because ultimately the network of skills are necessary to adapt yourself continuously to the changing environment of your organization, due to the fact that the disruption in your business process modeling is from such fundament that you all the time need for certain projects certain skills. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, when they're ready, you go to the next one. Boom, 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 boom. And the skills will ultimately will be used more and more and more. And again, the fundament of technology proficiency, information literacy, and the learning agility. So here a phrase that I use a lot and that we use a lot in our business is that it is important that employees internalize the possible impact of technological developments and the needed future skills in an intellectual, convincing and an emotional, attractive way. Only then they will be willing to change. And why I'm telling this? Because for every business change, and I think the digital transformation is not different, it is really important that we explain exactly why we need to change, why you think that we will not exist anymore in 5 or to 10 years. Why, continuously why. And just to give you an example, what we did is we started a few years ago with just a simple thing. We draw an S-curve. And what we did with our people is, and we asked all our people, more than 8,000 people around the world, by business in 32 countries, where do you think that we are on the curve? And most of the people they put on the top end. And that means that at the end of the curve, there are 2 things can happen. One, you go down, and that means you will miss all kinds of opportunities leading ultimately to bankruptcy or end of business. Or you find a new S-curve to develop yourself to the next stage of development. And this is the intellectual part, which is extremely important, that people really understand the need of change of your business. Now, when you start a new curve, there is the low part. It always goes, in a short pothole, and I call that the valley of death, because in that valley of death, what you do then is everybody has an opinion. No, digital, we don't need it. Yes, we need it. What does it mean for our business? We will lose momentum. Everybody is fighting for their position and what they think. You have the hardliners and the soft ones. You have the pessimists and the optimists. But when you are out of the curve, then you will see that you have a enormous step up in the digital revolution. Because let's not forget, in the digital world, speed is of an essence. And in the digital world, it's also important that everything what you do, ultimately you have to go to the naked cost. So your cost substantially has to go down, and then hopefully by then your services will increase enormously, and also you have an exponential growth. Well, this is the dream for everybody, and we have to step out of that. And this technology makes it all possible. And on the emotional attractive way, of course, there you have to find the momentum for the people, how important it is for the people to stay relevant. And that is one way is then, of course, we have our own responsibility as a business, and I will give you a few examples what we have done within Leaseplan. But of course, there's also responsibility for the people themselves. And therefore, the why is the intellectual convincing part is so important, because then people start to internalize themselves, really internalize themselves, what is necessary for them to stay relevant for the future, instead of waiting for the moment that they will be sacked, because ultimately that will happen. So what can we do, or actually what must we do? And I'm just giving you a few examples. Maybe you're doing it already, maybe you have better ideas. Well, send them to me, because again, as everybody, we are here to learn from each other. I think that's why this kind of webcasts are so important, because we can learn. Maybe a sentence is already important enough that you can take to your business or internalize for yourself. But one of the first things, and that I really like, is just try to imagine. Just try to imagine how the world would look like. And although it is very difficult, because you have to get out of your, let's say, daily practice into a creative world, is the most difficult part. But imagination can help to visualize where to go. And if you do that, then you set yourself let's say a dot on the horizon, and then you calculate back for okay, where do we have to be? And maybe you can make stages, stage 1, then we need to do this. Stage 2, then you need to do that. And this is very important, the reimagination. But to do that, of course, you also need to understand technology. So what we do, for instance, in our business is that we try to explain to people what technology is. We have many courses, some existing courses, but we're also building our own courses just to explain to people what is technology, what is digitalization, what is digital progress, but also what is AI, what is blockchain, what is this, what is that. And those courses are really important that people start to understand and realize what is happening in their lives, what could happen in their lives in a daily job. And what we try to do is reflect it with our own lives. Because again, many people think what they are doing at home is not happening at work. Of course, that is the case. And therefore, if you couple it also with your daily, let's say, practice, and you translate it back to the work, we try to visualize somebody at work and how would the work will look like in 3 to 5 years. Then understand the impact of technology, because you have to think about what are the skills of the future that we need for our business. And you might not know them all directly, but you have to make a start already where you want to go. Because the skills of the future is, of course, tech savviness, data literacy, creativity, emotional intelligence is mentioned. But what do you think about new media literacy skills? Or what do you think about virtual collaboration skills? Or what do you think about self-direction skills? So that's also what we're trying to do. We are not always right. So it is also a practice. Just try it out. And then in the coming years, of course, that will be more fundamental and profound in your own business to specify the skills that you need for the future. And then, of course, take responsibility. And the responsibility goes both ways. So I think there is a huge responsibility for all of us that at least, from a business side at least, that you try to explain to people why you're doing it, we mentioned it already, but then help them also in the employee agility phase with offering courses, try to explain people what we are doing, but also you can start dialogues with people, just have a discussion, how do you feel about this, what do you think that it means for you, because only then you can ultimately lead to an understanding of the need to adapt yourself to the new world. And so we have jammer sessions, for instance, that we do on our social website, and more of these kinds of activities. But in the same time, also our employees need to take, and I think also your employees should take responsibility. A responsibility to read the newspaper. Almost every day there's something about digital progress in the newspaper. Articles, many other things are there. So only then, if we take action now, and actually I mean yesterday, unemployment due to technical progress will not happen, and that also makes sure that you can continue in a new world, but you have to be flexible and be open for these changes. And I'm sure that you and we are all capable for that. Thank you for listening.
Wow. I'm blown away, and a little bit for your urgency call, because I think everybody was aware of the technological revolution, but we weren't aware, I think, so much that this was going so fast and so quickly.
Yeah, definitely, and you see it already. If you read the reports from Euroforum, the numbers of jobs that are decreasing at the moment is humongous, and but also double so much different jobs are arising. But there you see an enormous scary in there, because there are not many people who are really the data specialists, or not many people who have experience with these kinds of digital transformation. Yes, we have all done transformations all around the world. I can tell you, I've been in many corporates. I've been the CEO of Brazil and Mexico, and when I came back out of Mexico, I thought, well, on my routine, I can manage the business now. But I'm honestly sure, and this is not a joke, but I started to be a child again. I had to learn everything from scratch, and it took me now almost 2 years, 2.5 years, to stand here in front of you. 2.5 years I could not do this.
Wow.
And I hope that this is for everybody a wake-up call.
That's definitely the case, I think. We get a few questions, different topics. I'm going to just summarize a few, but I
will
think
try to answer them.
A few are really important here.
Oh.
So one of the questions, first question, Alvaro is asking us, he says, okay, so sometimes it feels that our developments are faster than ever before. So the question first is this true, do you think? But are we actually going forward or progressing faster than in the first or second industrial revolution?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question by myself. This is also something that I'm wondering myself. And what I do know, if you look at AI, that was already in 1950. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was already there. The first robot that was talking to you was called Alexa or something. I don't know anymore, but anyway. So that exists. We have brought it. We use Workday, for instance. We put a chat box in there, and everybody, whoa, you know. But actually, that exists already 50 years. So in that sense, it's not new. But what you see is that we're coming to a sort of breakthrough in technology usage, like for instance our virtual currency with the blockchain usage, and other territories that slowly more and more of these items coming. 5G will be rolled out. That will be making other connections with, for instance, the opportunity for Internet of Things. So via your, let's say, algorithm, you say to your refrigerator when the milk is empty, you can order already in the supermarket, and then a day later the car is parked in front of the door and they will bring you milk. This is your imagination that you need to do. So is it faster? I don't know, because technology has always been there, and technological progress has always been there. But I do believe that the number of technology opportunities that we have today, if you connect them all together, which we still don't know what the big result will be, it will have a big change on the society as a whole. You see it already with yourself, so look at yourself. And most of the people due to COVID are working from home. We're showing already that connectivity works, but it also showed that we don't need urbanization anymore. Because people can work now from farther distances. You don't have to drive 3 hours to your work anymore. No. So you can go to other places. So what does it mean? We all don't realize it yet enough, as I know that many organizations are thinking about closing their offices, including ourselves, you know, and that means that you can attract talent from everywhere. And we designed our own app with a gamification there, where we attract, let's say, software engineers all around the world who are working for us to help us to fix, to come with new solutions in an old system that is built on an RPG language. So is it faster? No, but I think we are really on the edge, on the brink of a complete new era, where we all now are filling in what kind of future we want to live in. And I think this is not something only for me as a 57-year-old guy here, but especially now we have to talk with our children to help them guide in what direction and what kind of world we all want to live in. And that's a broad thing what I brought up now, but I really think that we're entering a complete new era.
And if we talk about the upskilling of people, Sylvain is asking us, so who's actually responsible for this? Because the big fear is that you upskill your people and they go work for your competitor.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is normal. I always say some people don't understand me, but I say it's the biggest propaganda that you can make is that people from your own business are starting to work in other businesses because they are so good.
So it's all dogmas, old thinking.
Of course, I mean, it's all old thinking. And what you also see, I went with our works councils and representatives of our works councils. we went to Silicon Valley just for them to understand how the new world would look like. And what you see then is with that understanding is that when you bring it back, people really realize that this is something that we must do. And ultimately, we need to reskill and upskill ourselves to make sure that we can enter into those new worlds.
So we expect us to upskill our people, whereas we expect others to do the same, so we can share in the different expertise from each other as well.
Yeah.
Final question, also because of time, unfortunately, but this one I think is good to really check in also is the question of Sarah is, what kind of leadership do we then need for the future in our businesses?
The biggest question ever, because a lot of leaders, and I'm also looking at myself, they also don't have the knowledge and they also don't have the skills. But plugging somebody in, of 28 years old who is a top A student on technology and whatever, also doesn't work. So we are really in a transition phase where we have to try, all of us, to internalize what is happening with our world and what is the opportunity with technology. And this is what I like about this phase where we are in, because we all really have the real knowledge of the opportunities that the new technology can bring us. And that's put us all, let's say, on the start line at the beginning, yes, because nobody is ahead of us. Yeah, the startups, of course, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons, and whatever is out there as a startup. But the majority of the businesses are old businesses, legacy systems, people who are 30, 40 years working for the company, etc., etc. That is still the majority, and there the big change has to take place. So,
wow. I just got a note from our production. We can do a little bit more time, so I'm happy with that, because I feel that. So there's two things that come to mind. The startups you mentioned, I mean, they're fast, they're disrupting our systems, but they're obsolete within the next couple of years as well, because they will be, overtaken by other startups as well.
They are now so big. What will happen? I know in the 1800s, I think, or 1700, or 1800, in the oil production, was one oil company that became so big that they had to split up. I don't know the name of that company anymore, but therefore you have now the Shells, the BPs, and whatever. And they became so big. And what you see now with the Googles and the Amazons, they're becoming so big. Actually, the discussions are already starting that those companies have to split up. The great thing about the new world is that all the time new ecosystems arise. And what I also like about the new world is that everybody can eat from the same cake. So there is not like I take it all. It looks like now, because some of them, like Amazon, they are so far ahead of the game. But there is also a lot of ecosystems around them that are helping and also bringing a lot of business. Yeah? So because ultimately they are a platform, and in a platform they don't take all the responsibilities; they put it all around them, and these are all the businesses that also can benefit from them. And then those businesses create their own ecosystems with other businesses delivering stuff to them. So it is very interesting to see how this new world, via all these digital platforms, are creating themselves. And also we as Leaseplan, we are trying to become an integrator of mobility. That means that we have a platform and we want to tap in different ecosystems in green energy, or in the way how we attract money from the market, and differently. That is where we want to go. And then we will become, let's say, the Alibaba or the Amazon of mobility.
And then split up, maybe, if necessary.
What happens?
So, and how do you track your baseline then? I mean, say that you're a regular company, mid-size, or stock listed, whatever, but how do you determine where you stand right now?
Yeah, no,
how do you keep track of progress?
We started with this whole process in beginning of 2017, and we had many consultants. We asked them to look at the outside world, what is happening there. We were for more than a year busy with only understanding what's happening outside, understanding what the new world could mean, and we tried to map where we think that we could stand. And then exactly what I told you, we mapped ourselves back to the reality where we are today. And now with a strong digital team, hand in hand with the business, We're trying step by step move ourselves towards the dot on the horizon that we have set. That is definitely not an easy task, and even today we are still struggling with some of the progress that we are making, and of course the hundreds of millions that you have to put in there to change towards a complete new, let's say, environment, which in our case we call it the next generation digital architecture.
Wow.
That's where we want to go, because we have an old leasing system, and of course that can still work. I think it can still work for many years. But the problem is that the outside world, if we want to work together with a Google or an Amazon or whatever, they demand a different attitude. They demand that you deliver data. They demand that you can connect themselves with them via IPs to their systems. They demand, well, blah, 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 blah. So you also forced by your outside world to change. You have to. Otherwise, you will become obsolete, per definition.
Well, the call to action cannot be more urgent than now, I think. I want to thank you very much for being here, for sharing this with us, your vision, but also, well, from your experience in Leaseplan, what you guys are doing right now. It was really a pleasure for me, I think for many in the audience as well, for judging from the comments that we received. For everyone at home or wherever you're watching from the bus or whatever your place is that you work right now, the next webinar will be on 5 November. We'll talk about reboarding. And it's a bit weird in this time because quarantine periods and lockdowns are increasing. We're lengthening the time that people are working from home. But this is also the time to think about what you're going to do, maybe in the new normal, let's say, the call to action, when your office can be closed and when these people are not working in urban environments, but actually from the remote countryside. How do you reboard or maybe even onboard new colleagues? How do you get them on board in teams that never actually have met, but are only virtually responsive to each other and can build a virtual relationship? In the meantime, until the 5th of November, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel of Effectory. You can follow us online on LinkedIn, so please do so. Subscribe there and you will get all the updates on the events that are coming. And more information about Effectory, but also the way that we help companies like Leaseplan with our continuous listening to check in on the actual needs and wants of your own employees. You can find all this information about Effectory on effectory.com. Finally, don't forget, if you have an interesting idea to share during our webinar or during our webcasts, please do reach out. We're more than happy to discuss them. And if you want to share anything with the community, use the hashtag EffectoryHRLab. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you in November.